I'll never forget the first time I saw my own face across hundreds of gleaming screens, each accompanied by a different sneering caption. It was 2 days after my cousin's wedding, one of those big, sprawling affairs out in Glendale that drew the extended family and then some. At the reception, I'd managed to avoid most conversations, sneaking in sushi rolls and watching from the edge, until Uncle Ed cornered me and asked, in front of everyone, "So you're still chasing that robot magic, huh, Morgan?" I tried to answer, "It's not magic," but the laughter drowned me out. My mother had given me a pinch on the arm, and someone recorded it all. Me stammering bleary-eyed explanations about cell-level neural emulation, and then Ed guffawing. "You know what we call folks like that, in my line of work? Unemployed dreamers." His own laughter echoed by a chorus of voices I'd known all my life. By Monday, the video was everywhere, shared by cousins, reshared by high school frenemies, prodded into viral status by the cruel genius of social media algorithms. Dreamer Dork trended on Twitter for 12 unbroken hours, the comments a tornado of snarky remarks. My voice, explaining I'm developing adaptive neural networks for brain disease treatments, had been clipped and auto-tuned transmogrified into a whiny robot chorus. I spent 2 weeks after that hiding in my Koreatown studio, devouring instant ramen in bed. Every ping from my phone dropped a cold stone through my stomach. Old friends implying I should get a real job. My sister forwarding memes with her facepalm emojis. The walls felt close and the city shallow and infinite. Some people run away. I just stopped moving forward. My fellowship at the Oranos Institute was already precarious. When Dr. Voss asked if I needed a leave of absence, I clenched my jaw and shook my head. For 6 months, I did my work by rote hollow. Half the nights, I'd pace from the lab to Griffith Park, climbing the dirt trail behind the observatory with my notebook under my arm. The city glimmered out and below, indifferent, endless. But a few late nights, I found my resolve again, not from hope, not from pride, but from spite. If everyone expected failure, my only revenge was persistence. I won't pretend I suddenly believed in myself. The truth is, I didn't have another plan. Dad called each Sunday, reminding me again of the HR opening at his cousin's logistics firm. "It's not glamorous, but it's safe," he'd said, gentling his voice. "Science is hard, honey. Don't break your heart over it." But when I closed my eyes, all I saw were tangled dendrites and strands of code, a living forest I might understand if I had just a few more seasons. I'd grown up the weird, quiet one, assembling robots from junkyard scraps, talking about neurons at family dinners. "Our little mad scientist," Aunt Gina would crow, ruffling my hair. But this dream wasn't childhood fantasy anymore. It was biology, pain, and possibility, mapped across sleepless years and undiagnosed exhaustion. One winter night, I got caught in a downpour walking home from the lab. Traffic snarled and lights distorted by rain. I ducked into a 24-hour diner on Vermont. I sat in the glow and wrote a long letter to myself, one I would only read again much later. "Paint a target on your back and you learn to keep moving," I wrote. "If you stop, you drown." I started staying later at the lab, working after everyone left. I read papers on mesh proteins until dawn, sketched neural flows onto the tiled wall above my desk. I tracked the grants myself, sending out applications by the dozens. Rejection after rejection taught me to cut, adapt, fight for clarity. I only made progress because no one watched. 6 months after the viral video, Dr. Voss quietly handed me the keys to storage room C, out of patience with the risky ideas the board rejected. "Work after hours if you must, Morgan," she said, "but don't make a scene. And don't set off the fire alarm this time." Sometimes I resented her caution, but I kept my head down. I didn't tell family about the stretch of nights I lived on caffeine pills and French fries. Or the fact that my code began to work first at simulating network self-correction of digital neurons, then translating to living tissue. A few small victories: a glial cell realigned after trauma, a mouse recovering partial limb use. There were setbacks too. I woke some mornings with anger like a toothache, remembering Dirk's voice at Thanksgiving, saying maybe your time would be better spent, in the real world. But the research took on its own gravity. It devoured me, and over the next year, my results sharpened. Voss's brief emails shifted in tone. They became quietly proud. "Be careful," she wrote when my first abstract was accepted to the CNS conclave, "but show them everything." The first real proof came during that weekend conference in San Francisco. I presented in a small, stifling room to 30 blank faces. No hype, just slides and live neural repair models in flat dishes. Halfway through the Q&A, a white-haired neurobiologist interrupted. "We've seen hundreds of these papers over the decades. What's different about yours?" My hands shook. On a dare, I ran my prototype in real time, displaying every data feed live. The room was silent. A postdoc filmed it. This time, the clip went modestly viral for all the right reasons. The captions nervous but excited. Could this be the step we've waited for? There was no confetti, no ticker tape. For the next months, I survived on a trickle of grants. I skipped meals. I taught myself fundraising and signed the same form 100 times until the words lost meaning. But my work, published now in 4 journals, landed on the desk of Atheneum Biosolutions, a startup out in Pasadena. I'll never forget the day their CTO, Dr. Wells, called me in for a presentation. I wore my one good jacket, rehearsed my talk 3 times. After I finished, she closed her eyes for a moment, then said, "You know there are easier ways to build a career." "I don't want easy," I answered. "I want possible." She smiled and offered me the head of the new experimental module. I signed on the spot. The years that followed blurred with longer hours, stricter lab protocols, my mailbox lighting up with queries from researchers who once ignored me. We published results that felt and were world-changing. Our adaptive neural mesh demonstrated brain repair at animal trial level. What we accomplished wasn't immortality or AI in your head nonsense, but a real working repair cycle for neural trauma. I saw my name show up on panels, in small interviews, then at a tech conference where they flew me to London. Investors began quoting lines from my papers. Still, none of that undid the smallness I'd felt all those years ago when my own family laughed in my face. There was a hole in me, a dull ache, trailed always by the specter of that video. Still out there, ready for any stranger to find and share. But I kept my head down and moved forward. For a while, that was enough. The invitation to the family's annual Lunar New Year banquet arrived 5 years to the day after that infamous wedding video. At first, I deleted it, unread. Then my mother called, voice laced with guilt and hope. "It would be nice to see you, Mija. You don't have to stay long. Just come." Dr. Voss said, when I mentioned it, "You can't change the past." But sometimes showing them the present helps. I flew down from San Francisco that morning, nerves buzzing despite myself. Was I curious or resentful? A mixture of both. I wore a simple black suit and carried a plain satchel. Inside, a single white envelope. The press release embargoed for the next day, announcing Atheneum's successful first-in-human clinical trial of our neural mesh. The culmination of 6 years' labor. The patient, A 44-year-old violinist